Welcome to today's webinar brought to you by Reltio, CrateDB, Incorta, and Informatica. I'm Stephen Fegg, Director of Database Trends and Applications and Unisphere Research. I will be your host for today's broadcast. Our presentation today is titled The Future of Data Platforms, Faster, Smarter, and Easier. Before we begin, I want to explain how you can be a part of this broadcast. There will be a question and answer session. If you have a question during the presentation, just type it into the question box provided and click on the submit button. We're going to try to get to as many questions as possible later. Now, to introduce our speakers for today, we're very excited to have with us Abhi Visuvasam, Field CTO at Reltio, Stefan Castellani, SVP of Marketing at CrateDB, Mike Nader, VP of Business Analytics Solutions at Incorta, and Bill Kriegbaum, Vice President of Product Management at Informatica. Each speaker today is going to deliver a brief presentation, and then we're going to dive into a group discussion. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the event over to our first speaker today. Welcome to the broadcast, Abhi.
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it. Yeah, looking forward to getting started here. All right, thank you everybody for having Reltio and having me. My name is Abhi Visuvasam. I'm the field CTO at Reltio. My special focus area is in enterprise architecture and solutions and how it manifests itself in data management using our platform. So very excited about today's topic, the future of data platforms, faster, smarter, and easier. And it looks like that's what everybody has been targeting right now, is just to get everything to be faster. Obviously, intelligence and smarter is starting to become the key theme here moving forward. And of course, all of that to make things just much easier for us to accomplish. So let me jump right into how Reltio fits in the future of data platforms. So let me see, go to the next slide. All right. So in general, I'm just going to state a handful of truths here that I think is worth noting, that we all know is already happening in the marketplace right now. And it's especially important now with the rate of change that's happening right now. The speed of business is increasing rapidly. We're being asked to do more with less, and we are now being presented with the technologies that actually are able to give us the ability to do more with less, especially with the new agentic AI that is in our future. That's becoming a reality here. Very specifically, I think the AI movement is caught on and is becoming it's accelerating things. So even the speed of business that we thought was already too fast for us just a few years ago, and we were trying to keep up with, it's gotten that much faster with what we are expected to be able to do with AI and what AI can deliver in terms of capabilities for our businesses. With that being said, I think there's the big challenge right now for everybody to either innovate, stay on top of it, start looking at your data platform, start looking at your investments and making sure they're aligned with you looking, 6, 8, 18 months, 3 years down the road, and not falling behind, and try to be somebody that's a disruptor in that space. So with that said, I mean, not only are we finding that businesses are forced to have to do this, obviously our data platforms also have to kind of keep up with that. And that's where Reltio starts to come in. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we are starting to disrupt the space of data unification and what was originally referred to and still is referred to that, but it seems like a very legacy term, but we've built a lot on top of it, and that is MDM. So let me go into the next slide here. It talks a little bit about what are we expecting these platforms to be able to do, okay? The ones you see in the blue over there, analytics, workflows, and integrations, they've been around for a long time, and the way they connect to the applications in your ecosystem is still pretty much the same way. You build either point-to-point integrations or you have some kind of integration layer, and you're just pulling data directly from these applications, third-party data sources, and trying to generate analytics out of it. What does that do? It puts the onus on your data engineers. It puts the onus on your data scientists, all the folks working in your IT team to kind of do that analysis of the data, make sure you're working with accurate, unified, trusted data, so that when you're delivering results from these analytics and insights that you're delivering, whether you're orchestrating these workflows and then you're creating these integrations to facilitate business, you're actually working with data that you know is good. The problem is when you just connect to these data sources directly, there is no guarantee that you don't have duplicates. You don't have, poor quality data in some of these systems. You don't have the incomplete data in various systems. There's no guarantee that you have that in proper condition. You may have a great governance practice as well, but there's a lot of these silos that you're still going to deal with. What are we noticing? Yep, this pattern continues to exist. We've talked about this many times, and any data management discussion you'll see it comes up with things like data silos and the lack of integration, etc. But now we are adding something else to that mix, and we're adding the agentic AI future to this mix. And this is where we see things are getting a little bit more complicated. And what's that doing to the current landscape? We're basically tossing in another way of engaging with these data silos and ultimately trying to draw intelligence from this. And at some point, you need to baseline on some kind of truth to build this intelligence on. And that's where we're starting to see businesses struggling. We're starting to business struggle with the fact that AI does what AI is very good at doing, and that is the data that you feed it, the context that you feed it, it's going to come up with insights and information based on that. And if you're not giving it trusted, unified, clean data, you're ultimately going to result in getting insights that aren't as valid or aren't as actionable for your business as they should be. So let me jump into the next slide and just talk about how Reltio fits into this. Our story has started out, and we've always been where what people refer to as skating to where the puck is going to be. That's an ice hockey analogy. But what it is you want to go to where the businesses are heading or where the future is heading in terms of data platforms or technologies or concepts, right? And Reltio from the time we originated, we've always kind of seen things a few years ahead and tried to march towards that. I mean, we were one of the first, if not the only, cloud native master data management platform when we first originated. And the thought was, how could you do this? How could you take my master data and put it on the cloud? Isn't there a problem with this? In fact, in 2011, that was a new concept for people. But for us, that seemed like where things were heading. That seemed like exactly the direction we should be going, and we doubled down on that. So at our core, at our very fundamental level, we are a data unification platform that takes your data, we connect it, we bring it in, we ingest it, we enrich it, we cleanse that data, and then we unify it with all the multiple sources, and then we master the data and make it available to your business in real time. For any analytical use case, if you want to do it in batch, but also in real time, of course, if you want to pull it out. And we have our standard Reltio that can deliver any of our APIs in around 300 milliseconds, and then we also have our Lightspeed offering that can deliver it in 50 milliseconds or less. So we believe that as an MDM platform, we have skated to where the puck was going to be. Now, having said that, look at where we're going now. We're going into the AI world where we need to start thinking again 3 to 5 years down the road and seeing where things are going to be and start to build our platform and start to build the technologies in here that can help you deliver on those initiatives that you're already starting to work on and you're being asked to deliver on. So the key here is that we are built on AI, we are built with AI, and we are moving forward to deliver on that. So with that being said, what does our new transformation look like? If you want to look at Reltio and where we sit right now, we're building out what we call as an intelligent data graph. An intelligent data graph gives us the ability to take what we have, the data that we have, and be able to connect it with all the different entities that we have in the platform, build that contextual system of truth, if you will, and then be able to provide that with an MCP layer that we're building onto our platform directly to the data consumers that want to handle it. So at any point, you should be able to not just connect to the data, not just be able to pull it via API, but be able to interact with the data in an intelligent manner. And we think that is that is the future of how we deliver value to businesses, is that you can build co-pilots, you can build AI agents, you can build assistants that can talk to a platform like Reltio, orchestrate pulling out this intelligent data, and then deliver on valuable business outcomes. So I'll just wrap things up and just very quickly just let you know, this is what we're built on. This is where we're heading right now. We're building out a completely AI agentic platform on top of our data unification and MDM capabilities that we already have, real-time availability, flexible and scalable, built with AI, built on AI, built for AI, and we can deliver value to you in a matter of weeks. So with that, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about our platform and to participate in this webinar. And let me hand it off to Stefan Castellini, the SVP of Marketing from CreateDB. Take it away, Stefan.
Thank you very much, Avi. Actually, what I'm going to cover now resonates very much with what you just said. So maybe as a short introduction, I've been thinking, of course, everybody wants data platforms to be faster, smarter, easier. I think it's a must-have today. But why that? And to also repeat what you just said, speed and flexibility today, I would say they make the difference between insight and irrelevance. In the past, maybe it made the difference between, insight and slower insights. But today, with AI coming up, it happens very fast that companies become irrelevant by getting access to data too slowly. And that's the challenge we are facing today. So with the emergence of AI, and also the pressing demands from the business, there is this need for real-time analytics across multiple sources and formats. And AI, as we just explained, is driving new requirements. There is a new paradigm here, and the data platforms needs to be ready for that. And also, if we look at the deployment models and all the architectures around that, also that's something very important to consider. We see more and more hybrid and multi-cloud deployment models that are now becoming the norm. Fewer and fewer companies are just putting everything on the same cloud provider, which makes everything even more complex. And of course, it's taken for granted, but it's always a very big deal and very big challenge. How do we integrate all of that? How do we make sure it's secured? How do we make sure it's scalable? And I would say today the real challenge is, of course, making data platforms faster, smarter, and easier. But I would say even as everything else keeps getting more complex. So how do we bring this simplicity, this speed, while the whole landscape becomes more and more complex? And that's, I think, the big challenge today. So just to make a quick introduction to CreateDB. So CreateDB is a high-performance distributed database that is particularly well-suited for real-time analytics search and AI integration. To make it very simple, you can ingest tons of different data, whether it's time series, vector, text, geospatial, relational, JSON. You can put that all into CreateDB, accepts all these types of formats. And from there, you get a unified data layer that helps you where you can make very fast ad hoc queries, very fast aggregations. You can combine full text search and also vector with similarity search, and also integrate with your different AI ML platforms. So a few use cases to give you some examples. So in the industrial IoT world, for example, manufacturers can use CreateDB to monitor thousands of sensors in real time to detect anomalies and reduce downtime. Also, if you look in the smart mobility sector, we have more and more fleets of vehicles that are being constantly monitored, and where you want to know real-time locations and make real-time analytics to make some analysis, but also to make some predictive maintenance using AI. So that's also something companies can do. When it comes also to AI integrations, more and more companies are building their RAG pipeline, and that's where you can store and search for vector embeddings using similarity search to power your RAG pipelines and make sure you have the right recommendations in place. And that's also very valid for knowledge assistants and chatbots. And last but not least, companies also can decide to simplify the data pipeline, because data pipelines get more and more complex. And at some point, it also gets interesting to simplify it to get your data very fast and make sure you also can save cost. I mean, cost is a very big part of the equation. People can have very high bills by using standard technologies. And at some point, there might be a need to get more solutions that are more flexible and allow them to get a smaller cost. So to get a little bit deeper into the architecture, CreateDB is a distributed channel thing architecture, which means every node is equal. You can scale to hundreds of nodes. Of course, most of the deployments are a few nodes to a few dozens of nodes, but you can scale even more if you want to. Every node acts equally, and you can select the type of node you want in terms of sizing, in terms of RAM and CPUs, but also you can add more nodes as you go, which is a matter of a few clicks. And you can also deploy everywhere. You can leverage a public cloud offering. You can also deploy on your own cloud. You can make on-prem deployments. And as I said before, we see more and more hybrid deployments where people deploy pretty much everywhere, including on edge. So in terms of other features, search is very important today. It's part of sort of the real-time analytics landscape where you need to make aggregations, but also you need to be able to search very fast and also feed your AI model. So we have full text, geospatial, and vector search in a single platform. You can store, search, and query structured and semi-structured and also unstructured data natively. All of that using SQL, and it helps you make real-time inference, search, and analytics from the same platform. And now with the emergence of the MCP, we embed an MCP server to help integrate with agentic AI across the different large language models. On the operation side, I think this is something we often overlook. Operations are key. It's not just about deploying and developing new products. It's also being able to operate it very simply. And we have here interesting capabilities at CreateDB. All the fields are being indexed by default, whether they are plain fields or they are being deep dive into nested JSON structures. Everything is being indexed. Also, the technologies of the database can adjust to dynamic schemas and to make sure that we can ingest any type of data as they evolve. Horizontal scaling also is very important, as I explained before, with the shared nothing architecture. And everything is manipulated with SQL. So, and all of that with a transparent cost structure where actually you pay based on the number of nodes and not based on the consumption you are having. Security, privacy, and compliance are also very important. That's something I will go very quickly, but that's part of the governance process. Make sure there is a platform that is enforcing all the key standards in terms of security and compliance. And for ingestion, latency for indexing and query speed are extremely important when it comes to speed. Speed is not just the query part, it's also how you make it very fast from ingest to query. For that, you need to be able to have very high ingest rates to scale for very large volumes and have an optimized structure with columnar storage to make sure that you can make your queries and aggregation extremely fast with very low latency. So I will skip this slide, but the idea is to consider that sizing a cluster is something that requires some expertise. There are many things that needs to be considered. And that's also the reason why we offer also a cloud offering as a service where you can log in and leverage this whole infrastructure out of the box and don't need to bother about all those different aspects. But that's also something you can deploy on your own and make all the deployments and all the sizing and tuning with the help from our team. So if you want to learn more, please go to createdb.com. We also have an interesting academy with some free courses you can take to discover the technology. And also we have interesting customer stories and examples. So thank you very much. And I'm now handing over to Mike.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate the introduction. So Mike Nader with Incorda, and thank you for giving and taking the time to attend today's session. So when you think about Incorda, what I really want you to focus on is the concept of operational data and creating a foundation for operational data. We'll talk a lot about multi-source because it's not just about a single ERP. I wish that's just not the reality of our customers or frankly, any of the work that I've seen in my career. It's always multiple operational systems. The ability to access that data in minutes, because that's going to be important in respect to how you're running your operations and then how you use them in broader analytic context, and being able to move from, let's say a top line aggregation or stat account down to the operational details that drove it, essentially trying to ferret out the root cause for the patterns that you're seeing. Now, in Corda is a broad platform. It's got a broad set of capabilities from hundreds of different connectors to it's got loader services in it and a really robust SQL interface and an amazing indexing layer that we call direct data mapping. But the boxes are one thing. What I really want to focus on the left and the right here. Our goal is to take data from operational systems of record. Examples, those sources on the right, to process that information and deliver it into either platforms or your business processes on the right-hand side, whether that is an analytic process that maybe you do in Corda or you do in Tableau or Power BI or Looker, or a downstream system like a Workday Adaptive or Financials or Snowflake or Google BigQuery. Incorda's purpose is to really become a foundation for that operational data. More practically looking at what this looks like is what the users see when they get information from Incorda, or what the downstream systems see, are really curated data sets, data products, I guess. Now, the unique thing about the platform is that within the platform, Incorda keeps the data in its normal form. So all of the detail is there. Nothing is removed in the process. So at any point, I can drill back, I can move over or add additional information or that transactional detail. But given the use case that we're feeding, whether again that's a process from an analytics perspective or a downstream workflow, Incorda is going to provide the right level of detail through its semantic structure into those outputs, but always maintain the detailed analytics, or the detailed data, I should say, in its normal form. And we'll do that in incremental frequencies of as frequent as every 5 minutes. So the data will come in and will continue to flow through the platform. Now, one thing that comes up frequently, and we're talking more on the technical side of things, is why does Incorda operate in such an efficient manner? Yeah, I mentioned a moment ago the concept of direct data mapping. It's a very unique indexing structure, and it allows us to scale across those complex operational models, again, as they stand from the source. And so when you look at it in Corda, we've even got customers that allow external financial auditors to leverage Incorda, because the transactions, the detail in there is every bit as aligned as what you're getting out of SAP, what you're getting out of Oracle EBS. So we have a full platform that allows you to connect into that operational data, to enrich it through a series of capabilities. We'll read that and realign the use of that data based on the questions that come through, based on the the output requirements. And we have analytic templates. Now, if you go and look at our website, you'll see we'll talk about those as data applications. So mapped data sets that we've created out of Oracle EBS, Oracle Fusion Cloud, SAP ECC, and HANA, and a variety, dozens of other systems. But the real power in the platform is the underlying engine and how we do that. And so would love to get into more detail on it, but I do want to be respectful of the time on the broader webcast. And of course, if you think about all of the rich operational detail we're pulling in from those systems and across those systems, which again is the secret sauce here, is that Incorda's semantic capabilities aren't just about what we're doing today. I've heard a number of the presenters speak to, and I love the analogy, skating where the puck's going to be. So thank you for bringing that up earlier. I mean, this is really the direction Incorda is going as well, whereas we have all of this complex and very rich operational data sets and semantic structures, and we have setting up an MCP environment on top of that to allow agent-to-agent communication. So if I want to understand what's happening in entity A and their ERP environment, and entity B and their ERP plus their CRM or their manufacturing system, it's not going to be a requirement long-term to have to type a bunch of SQL or do a bunch of extra work. You'd be able to just simply make that request, or frankly have an agent make that request and in Corda expose the proper information with the proper context. So thank you again. And as I said, I'd love to talk more about Encorda. Please look us up, come over to the website. Happy to reach out. Please reach out, and happy to have a conversation with you. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Bill for Informatica to close off the main slides.
Thanks, Mike. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks to Abhi, Stefan, Mike. You guys have done a great job setting me up to kind of bring it home. And I'm Vice President of Product Management. I'm responsible for our cloud platform and operations at Informatica. And I'm going to start off with the big reveal. And that reveal is that I skipped a slide. The reveal is that data is evolving. And this is, of course, no surprise. Everyone's talking about it. You're talking about it. My colleagues have just finished talking about it. But if you think about all the use cases that are, encompassed by, AI and, cloud computing and augmented analytics, edge computing and data regulations, it's tremendous, right? And it's an exciting place for all of us to participate as data management practitioners, right? But it's complex, and just data regulations alone. I mean, one of my responsibilities is data regulations and supporting that for our customers. And this is a rapidly evolving industry trend that's just adding more complication for more data, right? And if you think about what's happening with these use cases, is that it's creating more data. The drive to consume more data is increasing. The need for rich metadata has never been greater, right? So it's clear that while things are moving quickly, the data management is a critical aspect for that trusted delivery, right? And I've been in this space for a long time, and as my colleagues, and I always remember talking about, what's the fastest way to kill analytics? That's to not trust your data. Fast forward into the future, that was 20 years ago, right? Now you start to think about having trusting your data to drive agentic AI to make autonomous decisions and actions and perform steps on their own. This need is absolutely critical, right? And it's not simple. Data management is comprised of so many different pieces, whether it's, the integration aspects, you got to have the data to manage it, right? Cataloging the data, governing your data, mastering your data, high quality data, delivering that data to your consumers inside and outside of your organization to really, deliver on that dream of data democratization. And now you add in, agentic engineering, right? It is critical for our customers and the industry to really be able to manage this effectively. Yet, it's not only a strategic C-level discussion, it's terribly complex, right? The data is massively fragmented. This is a webinar in and of itself, but I mean, the promise of, cloud computing was kind of to bring things together, but, in 25, 30 years of doing this, I don't think it's ever been more fragmented or siloed, right? And as a result, that opens the door for a tremendous amount of, security threats and making data privacy, both for companies and for individuals, more complex. And we've already talked about the massive amounts of data, but the variety of data is crazy. And the expectations of AI is enormous, right? And it's moving at lightning speed. The expectations of delivery is extreme. So this is a critical problem that we all have to really, solve. And we're all trying to do our best, right? But if you think about, all the organizations that are trying to figure it out for themselves, having to pull together solutions, to do their, app and data integration, or to do their cataloging, or to do their mastering, or to do their data quality or data delivery. I mean, there's just so many solutions that it becomes a mathematical, problem of thinking about all the numbers of possible combinations that customers have to kind of stitch together to build, effective data management solution. And, the real sad part though is, even though you might be able to stitch all those services together to create a comprehensive data management solution, you're going to really miss out on the huge benefit for AI, because it's not going to be based on that common metadata model. And each AI from each solution is going to be kind of operating independently. And while it might be great for an individual use case, you may miss that broader context. And context is key for effective AI. And so this is just a long-winded way of saying this is the problem area that we're looking at addressing at Informatica. And the way we look at it is we start from the bottom up, right? And we provide a common metadata framework to support all of our products, right? So whether you're in the integration space, the governance or quality space, or the mastering space, and we're leaders in each of those quadrants of the spaces that we play in, our AI capabilities are able to pull from this common metadata across all the different services to provide a much richer experience to our customers. And whether you're a data engineer, one of those citizen integrators, data scientists, data analysts, we really try to think very broadly about the end consumer of the solution and then kind of work backwards. And then Claire takes that front and center place for our AI strategy. And whether it's AI for data or data for AI, Informatica is building the solution and delivering the solution for our customers that's built on this common metadata framework that we believe provides that best of class experience. But to augment all that, we operate and partner with all the major hyperscalers, an incredibly rich level of data connectivity, so that you can break down those silos and bring all that data together effectively from a single solution. We focus a tremendous amount on security and compliance. Please visit trust.informatica.com. We can spend a great deal of time on this slide alone, but the net result is the outcome, right? We need our customers to have that cloud native solution so that they can break those silos, move at the speed of AI. But we also want them to have that fully integrated experience. We don't want them to spend time integrating their solutions together. We want them to focus on their business solutions, right? What is the business outcome that they're looking to drive with their data management solution, with their AI strategy? And that's where we want our customers to focus that time. And by providing that comprehensive, metadata-based platform across the different data management capabilities, we're able to allow our customers to, get to a market faster and really drive that improved ROI and ultimately achieve on the goals that they set out for. So with that, I'm going to stop. I'm going to hand it back to Stephen to begin our roundtable.
Thank you very much, Bill. It is time for our group discussion. All right, Abhi, to throw another sports analogy into here, I'm going to let you be our leadoff hitter on this first question. Question is, what's the biggest pain point organizations face with current data platforms?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. That's actually, great way to kick it off, right? I think the biggest pain point that I'm starting to see more and more is the fact that we've still got the regular problems we've always had, which is silos and integration issues and the ability to kind of mobilize data in an organization. At the same time, while we were solving those and getting people ramped up to do that, all of a sudden we're asking them to march at the speed of AI and start to connect and start to get results and insights from AI. So what I'm seeing is this dichotomy of legacy silos of data and things like that, trying to get that to be unlocked, at the same time trying to build out these modern data capabilities, modern data platforms that want to use this data in a very agile and nimble way, and they need to both operate at the same time. So it's forcing organizations, I think, to mature and to start thinking about their foundational data management practices, as well as the foundational data management platforms that they have, and making sure they double down on things like making sure they're unifying the data, getting their NDM strategy straight, making sure that governance is good, and all of those things. So what I'm noticing, the biggest pain point is this coexistence of a lot of legacy initiatives that have started, and of course, this pace at which we need to move for AI. That's what I'm noticing.
That's a great point, and it's not like data management had been perfected prior to AI rising. Stefan, do you agree? What are your thoughts on this?
No, I fully agree. And silos have been the issues for many, many years. And as soon as we start seeing the end of the tunnel, there are new trends coming up and getting into new silos. I think it's a never-ending issue. If you look at today, you have an explosion of volume of data, the explosion of the formats of data. Also, the data is faster and faster with all those sensors and all these real-time streaming data sources. Now we are talking about real-time inference with AI models, real-time analytics. So there are a lot of things going on, and I don't think most platforms can cope with all of that. So at some point, the teams realize that they have to invest into different technologies to cope with the requirements, and they create new silos. That's the way it works. And it becomes even harder to react quickly to changing business needs. So I think this is a major issue. How do we keep up with the current pace today, where everything is changing? I liked also the slide from Bill on the number of vendors in different areas. It shows the complexity, not just in terms of data topics, but also in terms of proliferation of vendors. So that's what makes everything very complicated and siloed.
Absolutely. More silos, more problems, definitely. Mike, what do you view as the number one pain point?
I think it's, I mean, I'll summarize really what previous two folks have talked about. It's changing requirements. And I mean that both from a technical perspective and a business perspective. Take the latter first. You have regulatory changes that come out. That's going to require changes to how you look at data, work with the information. You can't change those core systems at the speed with which people will change how they require it to be used. And so then you're trying to get additional technologies rolling in. Now AI or generative AI or the various forms of machine learning are exemplary of that, but it's ultimately agility that has been the biggest pain point in my mind, and that the requirements change. You can turn a project from waterfall to sprint, but it doesn't matter. By the end of your goals, the outputs that you're requiring are going to be different than what you thought they were even a week ago, and that's going to be a continual problem. And so I think the resolution to that is to develop more and more agility and how you work with the information.
That's a great point, Mike. We were all complaining about how long it took to change things with traditional data warehousing 20 years ago, and things are just moving faster in the AI space. Bill, I'm going to let you go first on the next question, but first, anything you'd like to add here? I'd love your thoughts on this.
Thanks, Stephen. I do. I mean, if you look at, especially large multinational, companies that operate in every geography of the world, they've got these very ambitious goals that they want to achieve, for their end users and for AI. And a lot of times it's about bringing all that data together, yet at the same time, they have the hardest challenge of maintaining data sovereignty and keeping your data local. And it's like, but the data is local. How do you feed this, insatiable appetite for data? So, the aspects of data governance is just massive, right? And it's something that the industry has just really got to tackle for our customers. And then you layer on top of that, the need to unify all this disparate data from all these different sources, so that whether it's an end user or an agentic service, that the output is dependable, trustworthy. And and I know that we talk a lot about non-deterministic capabilities of GPT, but at the end of the day, business needs to be repeatable and reliable, right? And so bringing all of these pieces together to feed this insatiable appetite is really tremendous.
Yeah, we really are, for lack of a better term, we're kind of data piggies. We love data. We love to use it for everything. And if it's not reliable, we're going to end up with the same garbage in, garbage out situation that, we've been talking about for years. Bill, I promise.
At scale.
At scale, much faster and at scale. So probably more negatives that would come with that. Bill, I'm going to keep my promise. So the next question is hopefully an easy one. What trend are you most excited about?
I think it's the possibilities, right? I mean, you think about the number of solutions that are being created right now. I mean, the pace of innovation is just, it's, hypersonic, really, right? And the innovation that we see our customers, achieve with, agentic services and, rich data is exciting. It's fun to participate. It's fun to be a collaborator with them. But then you just look at the state of the industry, the new solutions, that are making technology so much more accessible to a layperson. And I'm going to give you a quick example, and then I'm going to, relinquish my pulpit. But I was sitting in the airport with my wife after vacation a few weeks ago, and she was reading an article about AI, and she goes, "Is it really this easy?" And I said, "Yeah. You want to make a game about wildflower bingo in national parks?" And we sat down, and in 20 minutes, we prototyped an application. It is just absolutely empowering a whole new class of people that can be very creative to solve problems in new ways. So that I don't know, it's a very exciting trend.
No, I love it. And you're right. We could have AI create a Hallmark movie out of this very webinar, and it could do it pretty darn quick and decently enough. Mike, what are you most excited about?
I'm going to agree with Bill on the concept of the possibility, but I look at the advent of accessing information and the iteration of questions and processes now to be it's astounding, frankly. And what I think that we'll see is a lot of removal of some decisions that historically would bog down projects or bog down, the ability to deliver on the promise. Because if I have an outcome that I'm trying to get to, and I have to make 100 decisions in committee on data models and a bunch of other minutia that are foundational and important, but for the user, not necessarily the core value of the output. If a lot of these activities are now being optimized in a way that we take the collective knowledge of, just look at the panel here, the collective experience of the folks on the phone or on the webcast that could easily architect a system, but then instead of having to run through all of those mistakes again in a given project, you can take all of that knowledge and apply it immediately. And that's what I think is the most wonderful aspect to all of everything that we're seeing at the present time, because it'll let you focus more on the output. That doesn't, and I don't mean to dismiss the underlying or the requirements there, but it's putting the focus back on what the outcomes for the users are, and allowing essentially the processing and the knowledge and the architectures to blend into the background very much the way that my mobile phone blends into the background of my life. It's technology. It's helpful to me. I don't have to stop and think about it. And so it's really valuable to me.
That's a fantastic point. Api, where do you land on this? What has you most excited these days?
Well, if I didn't pick a theme in AI, then I guess I'd be kind of silly, right? But it is a theme in AI but it's going to be something very, very specific. I am really excited about where we are going with the whole model context protocol, and I'm finding that to be absolutely fascinating with the possibilities of that, and the fact that you build this layer out and you embed it in your product, and you allow it the ability to connect to all these diverse data sources, and then you connect that to let's just say in this case to an LLM, and you just start to ask very human-like natural questions, and you're getting your data intelligently assembled to answer a question that you're asking for. It just absolutely, the possibilities are endless. And I'll give one example of how we are leveraging it in Reltio for Reltio as an example, and then I'll hand it off to my other folks. But we have obviously our Reltio on Reltio instance, which is Reltio doing its work for our own company. And one of the use cases that we started to explore is a technical account manager saying, "Hey, listen, we put out releases every week with all these bug fixes or all these enhancements and features and all these different things for various parts of a product. And how do I get that unstructured data and immediately apply it to my book of business and know which one of my customers are impacted by these various things and be able to target them, right? And let them know, hey, listen, this last release notes, all these items, they matter to you because these things line by line. You just ask the question in an LLM. It goes through, processes goes and searches and looks at the release notes, figures out what there is, goes and looks in Reltio about the customer, knows exactly what they bought, all the SKUs that they own, and puts it all together in a report for you and says, here, go talk to this customer about these specific release features that matter to them. That's powerful. That's absolutely insane to me and bonkers to me that we are there already. That's crazy. So.
No doubt about it. Stefan, what has you most excited?
Yeah, many things. I agree. MCP is something extremely interesting. I remember 15 years ago when we heard for the first time the word API, and most companies were wondering, okay, well, developers understand what an API is, but what should we do with API in a global company? And what we're seeing now with MCP is the same concept as API, but applied to LLMs. And when I see everything, all the innovation being created over the past 15 years with APIs and how you can build interesting systems, applications, combining information from different sources through a single interface or a single format of interface, I do believe that we're going to see a similar pattern, a similar momentum in the next few years with MCP. But what's excites me the most today is how real-time analytics and AI come together. If you look a few years back, AI was mainly about machine learning models where you had to train your data, and then after that you were deploying your model and you were observing and making some analysis afterwards. And so AI and ML were more in the backseat, and they were emerging and they were very helpful. But now with agentic AI and everything coming up, we are assisting to AI coming to the front seat. Everything is to infer in real time. And we are talking about agentic AI taking decisions in real time on our behalf. So it puts a lot of pressure on data systems if you look at what's happening now. You need to have low latency, very high context information instantly. You cannot wait for seconds or minutes to get the data. You have to make sure your systems support it and delivers the data in a matter of a few milliseconds. So that's what excites me the most right now, to see this big pressure put on the systems and make sure that all the systems will move, I mean, as we said earlier, faster, smarter, and easier.
Absolutely. And faster is important. We do have a need for speed. Stefan, I'm going to let you go first on this next question. How can organizations do a better job of balancing self-service with governance? Users want access to the data. We already talked about how hungry we are for data, and they don't like guardrails and hurdles, but how can we do a better job of this?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I do believe that all these governance and control and everything and security needs to be embedded into the platform itself, which means the platform needs to be built with that in mind and offload most of the tasks to the teams, so they can really focus on building their service and using the platform rather than focusing on security and governance and so on. So it's a matter of having data platform vendors who embed a lot of work and innovation and a lot of governance requirements into the platform so that the end users at the end can really focus on what matters the most to deliver business value. And by bringing together a unified data layer where you can bring together all your types of data from different formats, different sources, it simplifies access to your data. So if you can offer an interface such as a universal SQL language, for example, it can also help getting very fast and adopting the technology in a seamless and fast way.
Understood. Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of advice you could offer organizations, or what you view as kind of table stakes these days to balance that properly?
Well, and I think you have to, wherever possible, the master data, I would agree, is very important. You have to have a common set of terminology. You have to have common models and things that you're looking at. And that is not to remove in the slightest the user's access. Governed, of course, secure at the record level or at the cell level, of course. I think those are table stakes. You have to do that. But I think the time of those massive projects that we're going to do an upgrade that's going to run 2 years, 3 years, that's not what people can afford anymore. Not even, just forget the personnel cost of it. The outputs never align to the need at the end of the project. So I think starting to break this into the concepts of I need to take, let's say, a data engineering team and start embedding those skills and those people across the various functions of the business, so that when we do things, that people who are experts in the processes and the knowledge there have the ability to act, and then have resources to help them or help the organization more broadly refine and optimize, but without getting in the way of, we've got to move this forward. Because we don't, for better or worse, time is not a luxury. You're granted, never really was, but I think that's, we're always about now speed to access, or speed to, everything's got to finish quickly. Of course, I think it's more important when we talk about the outcomes. Those have to be done rapidly, and the people that are going to deliver those best are the folks that are experts in those areas, and they may not be technologists. So we have to make it simpler for those people to get access to the information, to generate the proper outputs, and then behind the scenes or along or parallel to them, have people that can help, or teams that can help optimize that more broadly across an enterprise.
That's a great point, Mike. And yeah, we really can't wait just to have the perfect control mechanisms and governance, everything 100%. There, you've got to get on the train. Bill, what are your thoughts on this?
A lot of times I think start small and then replicate, right? So if you think about, pick a business unit, pick a key, critical business use case, and just nail it end to end. Get all the pieces in place around your integration, driving that quality, mastering the data, governing the data, delivering the data, right? Because, success breeds success. And, I'm a pretty aggressive kind of person. I want to go after the big nugget immediately. But, if you build on, success, you get people excited, you get the technology proven, you are more easily able to define your policies and your procedures and then build upon it. It's important to start with the end in mind. It's like, where do you want to go ultimately? So you think big, but you execute with some laser focus and then really build on top of that success. And I think that's probably the most successful way. And I'm not saying anything new. This is, this is how they do it. And it's like, I chuckled about the big, weekend sized projects. And I agree, those days are long gone. But do that ambitious POC and grow from there.
Gotcha. Get a quick win going, prove it to the business, and don't get in a situation where you're turning everyone off to the technology. Right. You want to prove it out. Right.
Sorry to interrupt. It's like it helps you build the muscle that you need. Yeah. Right? Because once you build that muscle, repeating it becomes a lot easier.
That makes sense. Abhi, where do you stand on this?
Love this topic. I get asked this all the time at roundtables, and I get this at conferences. Self-service and governance, they kind of seem to go against each other sometimes, although they should be working very well hand in hand at any given moment. Well, what I'm seeing as being successful is breaking it up into chunks and letting people own something. Get people to own their data, be accountable for their data, right? And the data product mindset, the data mesh mindset. I'm starting to see that becoming more and more important, especially if we start to do a bunch of these agents. We've got 1,000 agents in a company. One governance team cannot be managing all these 1,000 agents. We need each person that generated their agent to own the quality of the data that's going to be ultimately coming out of that thing, and to deliver it like a product to the rest of the organization to consume. So I'm of the mindset these two things can't coexist that easily. So go ahead and break it up and delegate it to the people and let them own the ability to deliver a federated model. And so that's why I think we should approach balancing self-service and governance ultimately. That's been successful for me.
You got to have skin in the game. It makes sense, Abhi, definitely. Mike, I'm going to let you go first on our next question. This is an interesting one. I'm curious what types of answers we're going to get from you guys. What is in your opinion, what is the biggest myth or overhyped buzzword you hear about data platform discussions these days?
Well, honestly, I tell you, I think the biggest, not a myth, but a buzzword is AI. We use it. Everybody uses it. And what we're doing, functionally speaking, is no different than we were functionally doing. We're just doing it in different ways. The outputs are the outputs, whether those are things that you only aspired to or things that were regulatory or statutory in nature. It's about making that more efficient. And AI is a method for doing that. And it comes in a variety of forms. I mean, often, okay, say AI and people are thinking LLMs, but maybe it's a machine learning model, maybe it's a whole school of technology and a whole school of science behind that can't really be well, I think, encapsulated in a single 2-letter buzz phrase. So it's a lot of noise. Not saying it's not real. I'm saying the people get lost in the term as opposed to the need.
I think that's very eloquently put, because yes, AI is very hyped up, but it's also real, and it's transformative. Bill, let's go to you on this one next. What do you think is overhyped or just one of the bigger buzzwords or myths you'd like to throw a dart at here?
I mean, I think Mike nailed it, and I think my answer is going to be just a subset of his, and it's agentic, right? And it is about as buzzy as it gets with a ton of hype, but it's not hype. I mean, there's something very quite real there and a ton of possibilities. But I'm not sure everyone understands what it means or what is it going to be when it grows up, when it matures, right? So it's still in its infancy, and we're all trying to figure that out, but everyone's kind of coming up with their own definition, their own outcomes. But it's a very real capability that's exciting, but a lot of more definition to come.
Yeah, no, that's a good one to pick. There is a lot of confusion around that. Okay, Stefan, we're going to go to you next. What do you think is a big myth or something that's overhyped?
I think today we hear a lot about different data platforms, and there are many out there, and I think the danger is that it's being oversold, where people start to present a platform, or people start to believe that a platform can do everything, from transactional workloads to analytical workloads to AI workloads. And we talked about silos earlier on, and I mean, silos will remain for sure. I mean, I don't see any close future where they will definitely disappear, but there are multiple attempts to bring things together as a new layer, but in the future with innovation, there will be new things coming up that will create even more new silos. So I think what is really important is, what is my platform good at? Or if I pick up a platform, why do I pick it? And what are the key differentiators? And what does it do very well? And for the other things, does it do it well enough? Or do I need to invest into another technologies? But to be aware of the limitations of the investments we're making.
Understood. Abhi, what do you think what do you view as a big myth or something that's overhyped right now?
Well, yeah, this is a good one. And the gentlemen here, everybody here, Bill and Stefan, Mike, they've covered a lot of ground here, and it's along the same lines. For me, it is companies are starting to use AI as a hammer, and they're walking around looking for that nail. Okay. And they're just everything looks like a nail to them now, and AI is the hammer, and they just want to keep going at it. I think there's a moment where we need to step back and say, did I even need AI to solve that problem? Maybe it was just a pure rules-based, bit of code that I needed to write to get some automation done, or something simple. And I think we over-apply AI right now. I think we're overusing it in various use cases where it could be much simpler or different. I think we're going to start to realize over time that anytime we use AI, the investment is relatively heavy in terms of compute power and all those different things. And it's going to catch up with everybody at some point. They're going to have so much money invested in that, and they're going to find that it's costing them a lot in terms of infrastructure or SaaS, accounting and whatever else that they're consuming. that I think people are going to start looking at a moment, I think, where they go, wait. It's not AI first, is do you really need AI? And then go after it, right? So I think that's where we are right now. We're going to get ahead, I think, to that point. But right now I see a lot of people walking around with AI hammers looking for any AI nail. That's what it is.
That's a great point to raise. So magically, we are past the top of the hour. Our lovely audience has stayed with us. So I'm going to throw in a quick lightning round. I appreciate it, gentlemen. Real quick, and Abhi, we're going to start with you. If there's one thing you'd like our attendees today to walk away, keeping in mind, what would that be?
Well, I think we covered a lot of those topics of various things to kind of keep in mind. I think right now the thing is make decisions about data platforms and everything else, looking a few years down the road and what's going to be where the puck is, right, going to be, and skate to that point right now. I think it's if you're presented with anything to make a decision on a data platform to do a specific, data function in your organization, I think you should be really, really thinking carefully about, is this piece of software looking as far ahead as I needed to look so that my investment will be worth it down the road? Or am I going to do something today that I'm going to have to rip and replace as I see somebody else forging ahead further? So I would say just in general, making decisions right now, looking so much further in the future, is going to be absolutely critical.
That's a great point, and I love the hockey analogy. I think that was Wayne Gretzky. I don't know. I'll have to ask ChatGPT. But
I think you're right.
Maybe. Stefan, what would you?
Yeah, I mean, prepare for AI. Prototype fast. Don't make too much investment upfront. I think prototyping is key. That's something that comes out of the conversation we had today. And also make sure that you are building for real time. I mean, everything goes towards real time. I don't think there is any way back. We are all used to get access to data faster and faster, and I don't see any future where people will revert it. And we say, oh, no, I don't need the data right now. So it will keep accelerating, we'll keep getting more and more volume, bigger and bigger volumes, and people want to get access to data fast now, even to make immediate decisions, and that can, most of them, be automated in the near future.
Absolutely. Mike, what's your key takeaway here? Words of advice, inspiration?
Yeah, I'll echo the prototyping concept. I think a rapid prototyping vehicle and methodology to test technology, but not even new technology, but your current technology set, is it living up to the requirements of what you need it to do from delivering, whether it's real time or near real time, or is it going to deliver the requirements and the outputs that you need? And very often you get stuck in a legacy approach to doing things because we own that tech and we've been running it this way for a long time. Obviously balance that against your budgets, but in regard to how you can evaluate, is it going to live up to the needs as you move forward as an organization? That rapid prototyping is going to be critical.
I like that idea, and there's a lot of legacy stuff out there, and the horse and buggy might work okay for you, but there's going to be people in Ferraris going by a lot faster. Bill, what's your final words here?
Well, I think definitely what the other folks have said is prototype constantly, keep driving that envelope, but at the same time focus on those core principles of data management. Break those silos down. Focus on quality. You want to make sure you have trusted outcomes, right? Govern it. You need to be able to deliver your data safely. If you're in a regulated environment, it's a core must-have capability. Master your data. We want, again, drive that trust. And then make it available to your users and to your agents to drive, but if you focus on those core data principles, it's going to empower that innovation that, we're all, at the precipice of.
Wise words. I would like to give a huge thank you to our speakers today for coming on board and sharing their insights and expertise. Once again, Abhi Visuvasam, Field CTO at Reltio, Stefan Castellani, SVP of Marketing at CrateDB, Mike Nader, VP of Business Analytics Solutions at Incorda, and Bill Kriegbaum, Vice President of Product Management at Informatica. If you in attendance would like to share this with a colleague or view it again, you can use the same exact URL that you used for today's live event. This is going to be archived on our website, dbta.com, and you will receive an email notification once that goes up. And if you would like a PDF of the deck, you can go to the handout section once that is live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we hope to see you again soon.